See if anyone is here. Oh, oh, oh. Welcome, everyone. I am going live a few minutes early before my dear friend Rukmini is going to join us. And we're going to just have a kind of artist-to-artist chat about creativity and how a little reflection on this year. So I hope you can stay with us. Wow, amazing. A lot of people here. I hope you can stick around. So I think Rukmini is going to join us in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, if you have any questions or want to share anything here, I'd love to hear from you. It's been a really long time since I've gone live. I think it's been, I think the last time I went live was a couple of 3-4 weeks ago, maybe, before the release with Willow. It got a little bit crazy after that, so I've been a little quieter. But it's so good to see you all here. Rebecca says, "Are you Indian? Are you an Indian?" No, I'm not. Not geographically, at least, or ethnically. Although I was raised with, you could say, Indian spiritual culture. I was given the name Jahnavi at birth, and I grew up hearing Indian music and eating that food and everything. So you could say I feel like I am Indian in many ways. Thank you for that question. Let's see. Any others? Rupavati. Hi. When can we hear your next kirtan? I'm going to be starting the live kirtans again here on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, as I was doing before. I'm going to be starting them again this coming week, next week. I took a little break, but I'm going to start again. I know many people have been asking about that, and I should have put out the notice before. Aichinmai, find Agata. Oh, AJ. Hi, AJ. AJ says, what is part of your current reading list? You know, actually, I was gonna, I put a few, oh my God, there's so many good questions coming in. I actually have a stack of books here because I thought Rukmini might ask me what I'm reading at the moment, but just in case she doesn't, these are a few things I'm reading right now. A few things, meaning because I normally jump from book to book. So this is my friend Jay's book, Think Like a Monk. I'm really loving it. It took me a while to get fully into it because I started it and I loved it, but then my sister had a baby and I've been helping her out in the home, and then we had the Rise release. So this is a fantastic book. If you haven't seen it before, heard of it before, I'm sure you have. Have a look at that. Then just 3 books I'm going to show you. This is an amazing book, The Mysticism of Sound and Music by Hazrat Inayat Khan. I actually read a piece of this about 12 years ago, and I wanted to buy it, and at the time I think I was very young and I just didn't have much with me. I couldn't afford it, and as fate would have it, my friend Kaylee just gifted it to me. So this is a fantastic book. And then I'm also reading this wonderful book called The Living Name by Sachinandan Swami, and this is about mantra and chanting, and it's just a life-changing book. So thank you for that question, AJ. I'm gonna see if Rukmini has joined here. Oh, yes. She's gonna join us here. Hey,
oh, did I pop in? Hey, Jahnavi.
You did.
I was enjoying getting your book reviews and hearing it. I kind of just wanted to keep hearing.
Yeah, I actually,
But it's nice to see.
prepared
Let
my
me
little
know if
stack.
I'm
I was like,
breaking in or
Rukmini's
out.
gonna ask me. Yes. You are breaking up a little bit.
Oh
Do you think
no.
that's on your side, possibly?
It might be. I've been having, you know what? I'm gonna get off Wi-Fi.
Okay, let's give Rixie a moment. I'm going to check some of your other questions. When are you coming to India? I don't think someone's asking when I'm coming to India. I don't think it's possible to come to India right now. I'd love to. I actually had a concert plan in March, a big concert in Kolkata, and we had to cancel that, obviously. Um, am I working on anything new? Thank you for that question. I'm going to speak more about that with Rukmini, so I hope you can stay tuned in for our chat. Let's see if she's able to join us now. Rukmini, where are you?
I'm
Hey,
back.
Rixie, you're back.
Hey, I hope you can see or hear me properly.
Yeah, it
Just
seems
text.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
it's working perfectly now.
Yay. Well,
Welcome.
thank you. Thanks for hosting this. You're such an amazing host. And even just seeing you come on and seeing like 200 people jump on, I was like, wow,
Oh,
that's Shakti. Because the other day we were like, maybe like a few people will join. Like, who goes
yeah.
on Instagram Live anymore?
I know. Well, I think one of the reasons is that I just hardly ever do live on Instagram. So people probably came on thinking and we're about to start a kirtan.
Kirtan.
So just to
Oh,
let everyone know, this isn't going to be a live kirtan session. That's normally the only reason I do Instagram live. But this is my dear friend Rukmini, and if you're not familiar, many of you will be familiar already with her incredible art. But if you're not, definitely don't check it out now. Just stay with our conversation and check it out afterwards. But we got to be roommates for a couple of years in New York City. Now we're a little farther apart, but we just thought it would be fun to come on here and have a little creative conversation, artist to artist. I think we've had many conversations like that privately, and
yeah.
I personally find it always inspiring to hear artists connect with each other and share about their process and their journey. So we thought it would be nice to just share that with you all rather than just doing it
Yeah.
privately.
And to see how it goes. I mean, one thing I love so much though about you, Jahnavi, is that you have such a great collaborative spirit. And we mentioned this earlier, like you bring others into your process, whether it's your album or getting someone to do like your cover art, or I got a sneak peek
Mm,
into like I think a music video that's coming out in January.
yes.
So it just makes me so happy. And I love that kind of synergistic energy within artists to like bring people
Mm,
into the community, to talk about our processes together and to
yeah.
like yeah, support each other in that way.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I
Yeah.
have to say I think I've learned to be more that way, um, because I think, I was one of those. I think when I was really young, I was, quite more bubbly and connecting with others, but especially as I became, into like from age 10 onwards, I had a bit of a trauma connected with school, trauma just in the sense of I was extremely shy, sensitive, and um, when I switched from being in a spiritual school to going out to a regular school, I started to have this dread around group work and teamwork because I felt like the other kids didn't understand me, or they would try and take advantage of me and get me to do the
Mm.
work for them, and I wouldn't know how to say no and all these kinds of things. So throughout, like, you could say high school, secondary school, I had this dread of that. And I think the thing that really changed it for me was after when I graduated university and I toured with Gauravani, who we both know, an amazing,
Mm.
multidisciplinary artist. And he had this such strong mood of collaborating and uplifting others, whatever he
Mm.
was doing. And I would watch and be like, how does he do that? Like, how does he so genuinely want to, uplift everybody else around him? But it was such a strong thing. And I think I just started to feel, well, I want to live to try and be like that as
Mm.
well. So,
It's so
yeah,
wonderful. And yeah, just that spirit, like you said, and I can imagine Gorvani's like big, spirit of bringing everyone together. It's so contagious, and I
yeah,
feel like that's what creative community should be. And yeah, it's a wonderful thing to aspire for.
Yeah, yeah. How has your creative uh what does creative practice look like for you in this time where, we've been so challenged by, I mean, for me personally, the challenge of being in the same space all the time and also having social media at our fingertips at any moment. We're kind of always on Wi-Fi and you just have sort of infinite more potential for distraction. What
Yeah.
does creative practice and creative depth look like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would want to know the same for you. But for me, it's
Mm,
been interesting because in some ways, like you said, even though we're like isolated, there's so much stimulation. And I think creating helpful boundaries is important. Um, to be honest, one thing I prioritized this year was like creating a space. Like I've moved
mhm.
back to my home in Florida and I remodeled one of my like old childhood bedrooms, but like completely redid it. So it feels like an office, a studio space, at times like a shipping warehouse. And that's really helped. I'm in here right now. I can even show you a little bit like my desk.
Yeah,
It's funny. I'm
please.
like here by myself. I'm like, I really want to show people my new studio space.
It's not really something to be proud of when you get it going like that.
For sure. So I think
Wow,
after
it's
years of not
beautiful.
having one, wait, okay, so this is the kind of come into my room, and then I have this giant oak desk I took from my dad's office, and just tons of
Nice.
posters, many that we had together at the Bhakti Center. I brought them back, my dual monitor, constant notes and files and cork boards of all kinds of things, and then just stuff that inspires me. Like I love, for me, this just makes me so happy to like take little details and little Polaroid
Mm,
like images and quotes and cards that are meaningful. I
I
have like
love
a
that.
little, this is like a little area where I put like my inks and my papers and watercolor, and it's just been really satisfying. My scanner to have everything together after, never really having my own space for so long. I
Yeah.
have a whiteboard. There's a lot. I
Oh
can
my
put you on a
God.
whole on a whole. This is supposed to be my art space, which I still need to set up. But this is my sentimental little corner. I you can tell my love language is words because like anytime someone sends me cards and notes, I have them all here. So here's a little bit, getting my bookshelves, kind of spaced out.
Oh, I
So
love it.
yeah, I'm really happy to share it because I feel like I just like hermit myself in here all day, but I genuinely like it. I have a little printer where I've been printing labels because I've been doing a lot of shipping too. Um,
That's
yeah, so that's been
fantastic.
kind of nice.
I love
So anyway,
that.
just
There's been so many hearts flying up as you're showing
thank
everything. You're
you guys.
inspiring us all.
I feel like I didn't really even answer your question fully, but I was like, let me show you my room. But it has played a big part of my, I think, creative process this year because it's like allowed me to focus in a little bit more. So, and also I think this year has been interesting because I've really claimed this idea of like, okay, I've been making art for so long and that's kind of been on the side, but I want to actually like really do it full time and really see like, can I
Mm,
monetize this? Can I make it into a business? Can I
mm,
and like authentically make it into a business because and I'm curious also your relationship with this when it comes to like money and art and like growing it. There is some weird tension of like, am I going to sell out? Am I going to just
mm.
create art for money and forget about the
Yeah,
heart of it?
right.
And then can you even like you grow up with all these ideas of like the starving artist and you can't make money through creativity and get a real job. So after really having that play through my head for years, I think this was the year that I've seen, okay, I've done this on the side for years now. I've built up a following. I've built up a giant portfolio. Like, let me dive into this. So
Mm,
I haven't spoken too much about this because I've been so in it. Since really like June, July of this year, I even set like a goal for myself, a financial goal by December, and like tons of goals. And
mm,
since then, it's felt like I've been in this like frenzy of just things happening, but I haven't really processed it or even told
mm,
many people about it. And
mm,
I think now that we're coming to the end of the year, I'm starting to think more on this year and everything that's happened collectively, individually, so many losses and so many things to grieve about, and yet that doesn't take away from all the good things too. And so for me this year, I think it's been a lot of like creative growth. And also like creativity doesn't just limit itself to like my paints and my paintbrushes. Like I've been seeing marketing, like how is that part of my creative, what I do? and financial, like selling products. So this has all been so new to me because I wouldn't consider that before as like part of the creative process. It's like, no,
Right.
strictly it's making the art and that's all the other stuff, you know.
Right.
But I'm trying to change that. And if I include that in my definition of creativity, then it has been quite a creative year.
Mm.
Although many ways, like when it comes to just creating art, I haven't really created original art since like April. So part of me is like, what?
Right.
But that's just been interesting. It's been an interesting thing of reconciling both of those, you know, the business and then the art
Yeah.
and seeing them come
Yeah.
together.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. And that's a huge
Oh,
thing to, that's a huge point to come to say, you know, I now want to make this the focal point of my life, and that setting that intention by creating the space. That's something I'm currently kind of confronting because I left the UK where I was during most of the pandemic in quite a hurry. I had to come to the US for a visa reason, and I had to get here before I wouldn't be able to come anymore, so that I could work on this EP with Willow that we just recorded. So in many ways, I left most of my stuff behind. I kind of just
hmm.
was again in that suitcase life, and now I'm really seeing, well, what does it mean now to kind of ground oneself is to set that intention. If I'm going to, you know, record more music, if I'm going to be of service in giving creatively, I have to make my space. You know, I have to
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
um, give it that respect and that that time. So yeah, you're inspiring me because literally
Oh,
I've been looking for desks, and I was
yeah.
thinking about a good board to put up, and I just got a fun piece of well, not fun. I made a major investment in this piece of equipment, which is
Ooh.
called an Apollo. It's a audio digital interface for recording. So I had one of
Okay.
these in England, but I always used to struggle because um, every time I would travel, I would have to bring all this gear with me in my suitcase, and it's
Right.
heavy. So then I would just sort of have an excuse like, oh, well, I can't carry it all, and then I would say, well, then I guess I can't really record right now. So I'm making some investments to make sure that I have no excuses. I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I can
Yeah.
record myself right here.
Right. That's amazing, Jahnavi. It's really like, yeah, claiming that space, even if you're not at home, like wherever you are, it seems like you're trying to set that space up and also
Hmm.
like you said, make it that focal point, which I think it always
Yeah,
has been in your life, but there is something about like really claiming it, like, okay, this
yeah,
is this is going to happen, which
yeah.
also you have done so beautifully with your recent EP release. And I can just see like so much you're going in that direction already, so much.
Trying to.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you. Vanita says that's exciting, Jahnavi. Well, Vanita is responsible for last year when I did these concerts. Vanita was our stylist, and
ooh.
she was dressing everyone, so we all looked very put together, and she
Your
always
outfit
keeps an
was
eye
like
on.
incredible during those concerts.
Thank you, thank you. Who knows when we'll have an
Yeah,
excuse
well,
to, have
dress up.
big gatherings and dress up again.
Totally. Well,
um,
Genevieve, quick thing is that
yes,
I have like a few like questions prepared for you.
yeah, sure.
How should we do this?
Why don't
I have
you
my
why don't you
notebook.
go ahead?
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. It's I use my fancy little notebook. Okay, so I I'm actually excited because I went through an exercise with someone recently, like a values exercise and creativity
Hmm.
exercise, and it just brought up a lot of really interesting stuff. So I'm going to ask you a few similar questions.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, and so basically, the first question I want to ask you is, what is the most creatively fulfilling experience you ever had? And I know there must be
Hmm.
so many that pop into your mind, but like a peak moment, and maybe even several that come into mind, because then I want to kind of dissect it and wonder like why is it that that was very meaningful for you? But it's really
Hmm.
interesting when we can just even like close our eyes for a moment and think like what are those peak moments we've had
Hmm.
creatively? And I'm sure you've
I
had
love
many,
that
but I'd be
question.
curious. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the first thing that came to my mind was related to the Rise EP because I um, that was very creatively fulfilling, even though I found it quite challenging. And I've talked about this recently on the podcast that I did with my good friend Jay Shetty, that Willow and I had quite a different pace with working. And we also had a much shorter time to work on the EP than I usually give to creative projects, especially a music project. Just to give you an example, my album, Like a River to the Sea, I released in 2015, so it's some time ago. With my album, I started it and it took about 3 years to complete.
Wow.
Um, with Willow, we were like, okay, we have 2.5 weeks.
Oh my God.
We're not even gonna meet every day. We're not sure what we are actually gonna record. Um, and and she was also working on a big recording project of her own in between every other day. So she was
Mhm.
only free intermittently. And after the first few days of working together, she was like, I think you should write the songs and take the role of producer. We would still write them together, but more responsibility for the writing and the theme and the ideas would come from me and the lyrics and
Mm.
everything. So I felt like that was a big responsibility, and especially because writing songs in English, which hasn't been something that has been really like an area of confidence for me.
Mhm.
Um, hi Alex Moga.
Hey, Alex.
Uh, so yeah, so that was creatively fulfilling. Specifically, the song Gajendra was really fulfilling for me because
Mm.
it was really hard, and I I had had an idea to write a song inspired by that story for probably about 5, 6 years.
Wow.
But I was going to do it in Sanskrit. I was going to do the original Sanskrit verses that it's inspired by. But we were talking about the story, and I was like, okay, let's try and write a song in English. But I had like 2 or 3 days to do it, and I didn't have anything else to do because that was the only reason I was there. So it
Mm.
was sort of this creative process to just become open, pray, write. Is this really
Wow.
what I want it to be? Because I knew we were going to have limited time in the studio. And so I wrote and rewrote it 4 or 5 times, completely new. Um, and so to have it come out feeling like, yeah, actually, I really like that. That was very fulfilling. But sorry, that was a very long-winded way of explaining the first
No, it's
part.
beautiful. But it sounded
But
like full absorption in that
it
song.
was.
Wow.
It was a real absorption, and I really dove into it because like I say, I only had that time to make it happen if it was going to happen because my
Mm.
sister was going to have a baby at the beginning of September. So I had to go back to help her. I'd promised her that. So we just
Oh.
had this little sort of time pressure. Um, but I think the most creatively fulfilling, sort of in a long-term sense, was my album, my first and only album. I'm hoping to record another album in the coming year. Um, Hopefully that doesn't take 3 years. Hopefully I will record it and release it next year.
Mm.
But that was extremely fulfilling because honestly, I didn't know I could do that. I had no specific desire to do it. Um, I mostly did it because of the encouragement of so many people. And I think I've probably told you this story before, but many people had been asking me to record an album and encouraging me. And I I was sort of like, I don't know, I don't really think this is something I'm not really even a musician, so why would I do that? But then I asked my mom, who I always trust her, I always trust her insight and her kind of depth and spiritual connection. And she was always like, absolutely, you should do it. And so then I sort of started looking into the process, and I realized that um, it was going to probably cost a lot of money to make an album in the way that I might want to do it. So again, I was like, okay, well, I don't think I can because I
Mm.
probably can't afford it. And so I set up, I had an idea, well, let's try a crowdfunding thing. And I'm sure I won't get the money, and then I'll know that it's meant to be, that I'm not meant to do it.
Yeah.
Um, And then I set up the crowdfunding, and within like 2 or 3 days, it had exceeded the amount that I put up
Wow.
there.
What was the
Um,
amount again? Do you remember?
I think it was the amount people donated was 9,000 pounds,
Wow.
um, which was more than what I needed, and enabled me to also invest in some equipment for home recording so that I could
Mm.
actually be more independent with the process. So that process of making the album was one where it was extremely uncomfortable, because
Mm.
every step was learning and mistakes and lack of confidence and extreme self-doubt. And my sister would have to, give me like pep talks all the time. You have to finish this. Everyone's
Wow.
donated the money, and
At
so
that
I
point,
felt
you're
like,
just obliged.
right, I felt like this immense pressure because people have given something and they're expecting something. And as I started to go through the process, I also recognized, actually, okay, I don't think I am a musician, but I seem to have some music inside me, because there are ideas that have been there for a long time, if I'm honest. And now that they're coming out of me, and now that I'm telling this musician how I want this to sound, something's happening, and I'm like, yeah, that's how I want it to sound. And I'm sort of like, oh, does that mean I'm a composer, or like what is
Mm.
going on here? So by the end of it, to sit back and listen, and I remember one beautiful moment. There's a song on the album, Heart on Fire. Hari Hari Bifale is the song. It's with the piano, and this song was
Yeah,
very
I love.
meaningful to me. And we were in the studio just finishing up mixing it, and it had been raining all day, and the studio was in a field near my house. It's sort of in the back of someone's large home, and backed out
Mm.
onto these fields where I walk and get a lot of creative inspiration. I looked out the window, and there was this massive triple rainbow in the sky,
Wow.
whilst it was still raining.
What does a triple
And
rainbow even look like?
it's 3 layers of rainbow,
Oh
like
my
that.
God.
And I went outside, and I just, it filled the whole sky, and it was still raining in that moment, and the song was still playing inside the studio. And I just I just felt, so it was a divine moment, because I felt this sense of assurance that, okay, this was really hard. This was really hard. I was also going through a
Mm.
very difficult time personally throughout the album recording, and got sick several times and things. But I felt like this was worth it, and it gave me a taste for creative courage and
Mm.
curiosity, and just moving beyond fear in the
Yeah.
artistic process. That stayed with me. So
Wow. That's such a beautiful moment. I'm just like
yeah,
imagining that myself going through all that and then seeing that rainbow. It's like, so you can't get more of a sign than that.
yeah.
Can't be more clear than that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I should add, and some people tuned in here may know about my connection with Yamuna Devi,
Hmm.
who was an incredible bhakti yogi, a musician, an artist, of so many different arts. She was a real Renaissance woman, and she was a very strong mentor in my life, and an inspiration. And the reason I was recording that song, Hari Hari Bifale, was inspired by her. In fact, the whole album was somewhat of a
Mm.
tribute inspired by her. And we had a connection, which we said that it was the rainbow connection, because
Wow.
whenever I used to go and visit her, somehow a rainbow always used to appear at some point in our visit, whether it was, that day or a couple days later when we were still together. Um, and so in that moment, I also felt some affirmation, some connection. So yeah,
Wow.
it can be a
That
magical
that actually just
process.
gave me goosebumps hearing that. That's incredible. So
Mm,
beautiful.
thank you
I
for that
love,
question.
yeah, thank you for bringing us into your world like that. I feel like, especially the way you speak about creativity in your life, it's so completely intertwined with spirituality and spiritual experience. It's so beautiful. It's completely almost like one and the same. Like even hearing this rainbow story, it's like um, so wonderful. It's like almost like your bridge, to Krishna and to Mother Yamuna and to all of these people. So it's so
Mm,
nice to hear.
yeah, yeah. I think I've always felt that art and spirituality are inseparable, and I think that's it's interesting to navigate that when you do feel called to express things artistically that don't necessarily have a direct connection with spirituality or prayer or something, because of course, you can just um, draw lines on paper, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily, it's not necessarily specific in that way, that now here I'm drawing some spiritual symbol or imagery. But I think that when we really dig down as artists, to what is it that we're trying to express, is the deepest emotions or longings of the soul, our
Mm.
soul's journey in this life. Um, so that if we ourselves as artists are digging deep in our own life, in our own reflection and creativity, I think that we try to cultivate that to come out, our connection with spirit, our connection with the divine, because that gives art real depth and power, I think, to
Mm.
transform hearts. Whereas I think it can also, art can just merely evoke emotion,
Hmm.
or bring someone into the space, the emotional space of the artist. But I think
Yeah.
my hope is that it can actually transform a heart beyond what me as a human being could do. So
Hmm. That's so
yeah,
beautiful. I'm seeing a lot of love and comments and people really resonating with that. I
yeah,
love how you go straight, like that transformation of the heart is everything. Because, and especially
mm,
as an artist myself, I always talk about art as being like an expressive expression of emotions, and we come to the heart space, which is true in one sense. But I love how you kind of took it one step deeper of like, actually you're transcending that, and actually you're
hmm,
connecting to like something eternal and something like limitless and unlimited and all of those wonderful things. So,
yeah, yeah,
and it kind of connects to the second question I had, which is, when we think of this special creative moment, it's almost like what was most important about that moment? Meaning, like, what are those values of that moment? And I mean, a
mm,
few things already came, like the spiritual connection, and I
yeah.
don't know if there's anything else that you want to add to it.
I think self confidence was a huge
Mm,
aspect of that journey. It's echoed with the what I described about writing the Gajendra song was also a moment. So maybe that's a theme for me, or I think it's a theme for many artists who live under a cloud of self-doubt most of the time. But the album really was for me a constant tug of war of my you know ego saying, you can't do this, you shouldn't be doing this. We
mm,
we talk about imposter syndrome. It was that feeling that, why are you doing this anyway? This is probably just an ego thing, and you shouldn't be, putting yourself out there, and who are you to, all this type of talk. And then me trying to go deeper and deeper to know, no, this is the reason why I'm doing it. This is the reason. This is, I believe in this. And
mm,
maybe it doesn't even matter if anyone likes it, or, what about if it's just me sharing this as a prayer. This is a
mm,
musical prayer that I have to offer. And there were even instruments that I had been listening to for so many years and loved for so many years, and I had always wanted to express myself musically with those sounds. For instance, there's the song Madhava's Lullaby that has the beautiful
yeah.
kora, the African kora, in it. And I love the kora, and I'd wanted to bring those elements together, but I wouldn't have had the confidence before to be like, oh, let me find a kora player. I think, why does a professional musician want to have anything to do with me?
Mm,
I'm just who am I? But to feel empowered, because, and this is a key aspect of it, I think, because people had donated with crowdfunding, they had expressed their faith in me,
mhm.
and even though I didn't have that self confidence, so I kind of had to just step up to the plate and just try. Um,
Hmm.
and that was a huge thing, and it's taught me more to trust that process, to trust sometimes even what others are seeing, even though you know, in a spiritual practice, we practice perhaps tuning out the opinions of others in the sense of, you know, people's praise, people say you're so amazing. You're like, no, 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 it's okay. I know who I am, but thank you for your kind words, you know. But to sometimes just hear what others are saying and say, okay, well, I'm gonna believe you, and I'm just gonna try. And you know, I'm probably gonna mess this up, but I'm gonna try my best and put my heart into it. People are saying, can we access this talk somewhere later? And yeah, I will say that to my IGTV. It's so lovely. I love talking about these things
I
with
know,
you.
right? It's so like
Yeah,
uplifting, and I love just that so many people are resonating with it too.
yeah.
Creativity is something, and spiritual, it's also universal. Like sometimes we just think it's just reserved for the artist or for those
Hmm.
like rare geniuses who can access this power, and it's completely not. And I know you and I feel
Yeah,
the same on this of like how we want it, and it should be like accessible for everyone to talk about these things, to experience it,
yeah,
to experience transformation through music or dance or art, all of that.
absolutely.
And also like I love hearing your story, and it's so relevant and it's so accessible because you talk about coming from a place of like self-doubt and not believing in yourself and slowly kind of emerging and blossoming. And that's so beautiful because again, that's everyone's experience. We
Mm,
think when we see amazing artists that they've just always like believed in themselves, or Jahnavi has just always been this shining star. And of course you have, but it's been such a journey for you to trust yourself. And I love that
mm,
you kind of bring this theme of community in because I see that as a theme for you. It's like the support of the community, the encouragement of the community. It's like every time you doubt yourself, it's someone somehow will reach out and like show you a mirror and show you what you have to offer, you know. So it's almost
yeah.
like that magic that's in you, Genevieve, will never just like die silently. Like the universe won't allow that. They will allow someone to come in your path, whether it's Willow who's like write the song, or it's, you know,
Mm,
the other community who's like we will sponsor this album. So it's
yeah.
that's also really reassuring because sometimes we're thinking like, oh my God, I'm so full of self-doubt, I'll never be able to express what's inside of me. And it's, I
Hmm.
really believe that if it's really meant to come out and you're sincere about that, something in your life will inspire you, will encourage you, will bring along a
Yeah,
mentor or a teacher or
yeah.
someone to again
Or a
act as that
roommate.
mirror. Yeah, or a roommate to
And
bring
and
that
and
out.
just for anyone who's tuning in, just recently, Rukmini and I were roommates in 2018 mostly, and
We talked about this all
2019.
the time in the hallways,
We
in the
yeah, we
bathroom.
would always, you know, like we would always be like, okay, good night, and we turn out the lights, and then be like, I was just thinking, and we'd start having a conversation like this in the dark, and you
Yeah,
know, go on for like the next hour, and they're like, we should really go to sleep now. Okay, good night, and
yeah.
but just one more thing.
Totally. Having these like existential conversations before bed, or like,
Yeah,
what is the purpose of all of this, Johnny?
yeah. Yeah. But I love that you said that because I really believe that's true. I mean, I felt that even in our coming together, staying together, I felt that I learned so much from you in many ways, and still do, you know. I so much have always admired your persistence and consistency in creating, and um, although, you know, it's a tension for an artist to both hone what they do to something specific whilst not being too rigid about that, so that they stop feeling
Yeah.
free to just explore. And I remember Rukmini creates art often inspired by human emotions and exploration of the emotional landscape internally, and particularly her work has often been inspired by an amazing system of, you call it the Enneagram.
Mm.
It's a system of classification of different personality types. It's much more than that, but it's an incredible tool that helps people to understand more about themselves, how to evolve, and how
Mm.
to access their highest potential. And so Rukmini's art has been a lot of the time focused on this. And I remember sometimes your kind of struggles, you know, to feel like, can I go outside of this now? Because now this is sort of what I'm known for.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I admire that you also stick with that and find ever greater depth and ways to explore that. That's just one of the things I learned
Mm.
from you. There's so many
Wow.
things. Um, but it's also taught me a lot, our time staying together, about the importance of Sangha, of connection as with other creatives. And I remember you always used
Mm.
to go to these creative mornings and really stay
Yeah.
connected with other artists. And that inspired me so much to just to make those connections. That's why we wanted to do this chat today, because it,
Hmm.
it really touches the heart and brings us so much fresh air in our artistic practice to talk to another artist we resonate with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's like water for the thirsty, right? At some
Right.
point, we're like empty. We have to kind of fill up with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, someone's saying, what was that personality type system called? It's called the
The
Enneagram.
end. Hmm.
Enneagram. And if you want to learn more about it, definitely, if you check out Rukmini's art, you will both learn about the Enneagram, but you'll also probably go on rabbit hole to other
Yeah, it's a lot.
Enneagram, Instagram people, and there's a lot out there, and it's really a fascinating system.
Yeah.
How has it been for you, that journey of kind of um, self-definition? I
Mm.
did I did I posted this beautiful uh, post the other day from this artist August Lam. I don't know if you saw me post that.
Mm.
She's primarily does very precise line art, and I've been following her for a while. But she posted this very chunky, blocky oil painting of a
Mm.
self-portrait, and her caption was about, just because you do one thing on social media and you're known for that on social media, don't let that define you in your life outside social media, that you don't still feel free to explore other artistic mediums and just
Mm.
be curious. And it reminded me so much of you, because I remember you talking about this. She was saying it's fine to focus in on one thing for your online presence, because this is how you define what you do, you share with the world. But
Hmm.
in real life, still let
Yeah.
yourself be fluid and free. What has it been like that for you to explore
Mm. I love that. I feel like I'm in constant self-definition, or however
that?
you want to see it. It's constantly evolving. I break out of
That's
one box and I'm in a,
Enneagram 4,
yeah,
everybody.
right. There's the four wanting to always have a different identity. Yeah, I break out of one box, I'm in another. It just gets bigger and bigger. But it's so funny. I love that example you gave of the woman who is kind of trying and experimenting. And I feel like I really encourage that and I love it, but I don't always follow it in the sense that I want to follow it. And it's,
Mm,
this idea that you have your online work and then your like real life work. And unfortunately, it feels like online and real life, it's like the same right now. It's like, how does
yeah,
anyone have time to do anything
yeah,
offline? As
yeah.
artists, we have to like create, promote, put it up. It's so intense. So I feel like I'm constantly
The
in a
modern
tension of
artist.
the modern artist. There's a lot of opportunity for the modern artist. It's amazing. Like we can just have face-to-face interaction with our audience. We can create, but at the same time, we don't really have these boundaries. We kind of, yeah, it's like too much. So for
Mm,
me, my definition of an artist is someone, yeah, I think someone who's always looking to go deeper in their art, looking to
hmm,
create, be authentic, to constantly explore, and like you said, push boundaries. And
hmm,
yet at the same time, I kind of have my own niche that I want to grow deeper in. So
hmm.
instead of going wide and just creating a lot, it's like, how do I go really deep with what I'm doing, talking about emotions and creativity? But there is a constant tension in the sense that I it's easy to get stuck in something, and it's so
Hmm.
easy to be like stuck in your expectations. Again, as an artist, and again having
Hmm.
Instagram and the followers go up, it's wonderful, but
Yeah.
you get more and more kind of stifled. So I felt that 5 years ago when I started drawing my obscure emotion series, it was coming from such a playful, open, no expectation place, just because I had like
Hmm.
a few hundred followers and I wasn't defined. So in that space of not being this defined artist with a brand, I could be so much more free and explore. And then slowly, I started defining myself more, and that's been wonderful. But then I have to again break out of that because then I get stuck. and I don't feel inspired. I just feel like I'm not in that place of really authentically living my art. So then I have to break out of it again, which is wonderful. So I really mean it when I say it's constantly breaking out and constantly
Yeah,
building. So I
yeah,
think that's fine as long as I kind of commit to that practice. Like right now, I
yeah.
am doing something and I want to, after the holidays, after whatever my projects are done, take time to like fully explore something different and do that,
Mm,
courageously. Try, like for me, yeah, if I can ever try new mediums is helpful. For example, like
mm-hmm.
I've been wanting to get into animation, and that means I'm going to really
Mm,
suck at it. I'm going to be a novice. I'm going to, but still willing to do that.
yeah,
Um, I've been wanting to post more like sketchy stuff in my sketchbook that's kind of messy and sort of ugly, and I don't do that because it doesn't fit my quote unquote brand that I've built. But
yeah,
again, breaking out of that. So I think it's just a dance.
yeah.
For me, it's hard to imagine it any other way than that. And I don't know if you felt similar in music. Does that happen like
Yeah,
similarly?
yeah, yeah, definitely. I through my younger years, I would say, I was learning the violin for many years, but primarily the arts that I put most time to was dance. So if
Hmm.
anything, I thought of myself as a dancer. And I think, but I've always created art. I've always written. I've always loved music. Music was probably the last thing that I would have defined myself as
Wow.
a musician,
Hmm.
or as a singer, definitely. And so it's been interesting to have my online identity become more and more sort of narrowly defined as Jahnavi's
Yeah.
musician. It's happening when you start looking at the description on your social media profiles where you say what you are and you find, oh no, actually I need to take that thing out now because
Yeah.
I don't do that. People don't see me do that. So um, and so it's become, more that I'm a musician. But it was interesting, I think recently, a couple of months ago, I set up an Instagram profile for my visual art.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to do that because some people were like, why did you do that? Why didn't you just post it on your regular page? And that's it's a valid question. But there was a part of me that felt that I wanted to protect the free flowing feeling of my
Mm.
connection with visual art,
Hmm.
to not try and ring fence it into this more maybe official presence of, okay, this is what I do on a mass scale.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just feel free that, oh, if I draw this thing and I like it, I feel like posting, I'm just going to share it. It doesn't have to be in any particular theme. I'm not trying to please anybody. I'm just putting it there to share, and just more to keep a record for myself, a little portfolio. And that was an interesting, it's whilst, on my, I mean, this is sort of a very modern conversation because it's all about social media, how we view ourselves through social media. And on my profile, on my Instagram profile as a musician, for instance, the numbers are going up and up. And when I switch
Hmm.
over to my account that I made as an artist, I think there's maybe 900 followers or something. And I just post something, maybe one person will comment, and it's
Yeah.
like it's the feeling of being, when I post something on the musicians page, it's the feeling of being in a stadium and picking up the microphone and saying,
Wow.
okay,
Yeah.
everyone, here I am, and this is what I want to say. Um, and then when I go into the other account, it's like, here I am in a quiet room in the library, and I'm just doing this. There's no one around. And maybe a friend comes over and like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, that's cool. And then they walk away. It's like,
Oh
so
my God.
they're almost like different worlds, different
Yeah.
rooms.
That's
And
such a good analogy, though. I love
yeah,
it.
I think it's important for us to protect spaces like that sometimes in our life.
Mm.
And it's like what you talk about, trying new mediums, um, like animation or something. Or like I've been really wanting to try pottery after many, many years. Um, and it's a space for free connection and just finding a flow, finding an inspiration. Um,
Mm. Wow,
Somebody's
it's
saying,
so
what's the name
important.
of your art page? Destiny says, what's the name of your art page?
Hmm.
It's Little Conch Arts. Little conch, like the shell, or sometimes Americans say conch shell, I
Yeah.
know. um,
I just want to go. I love the analogy of the room, like the
yeah,
stadium versus the quiet room. It's so
yeah.
perfect because again, like the
Are you gonna
virtual
make that
reality.
into a, are you
Yeah,
gonna make
maybe.
that into an illustration?
Yeah, I might just steal that. Also, just I want to tell people a lot of my art is stolen from Jahnavi's words of wisdom. Just living together, she would just say something, and I was like, I'm just gonna write that down and
Excuse
use
me
it.
while I just
Yeah,
do a little sketch here.
while I just draw that.
Oh, thank you,
One of those.
Sundaracha.
I have one of those Instagram notifications when I go over my time. Anyway, it's a good reason to go
Oh,
over time.
oh, right, right,
It
right.
like kicks me
Yeah,
off, which is needed many times.
yeah.
Oops. But I was saying that I love it because virtually, and just coming to the conversation of like virtual space, like digital life, like this is our reality in many ways, the digital reality. So it just has space in the real world exists. Digital spaces exist too. And I think it's just so interesting to be
Mm,
like cognizant of what kind of space we're entering. Like social media
yeah.
is, like you said, it feels totally like a stadium. Like we're all the center of our own
Hmm.
stages. We're all kind of like what's the word, like blasting our messages
Projecting.
into, yeah, projecting outwards. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
one to many experience, where
yeah,
sometimes there's spaces where it's many, where it feels more of a community.
yeah.
But anyway, I just like how you compared it because it's a really interesting idea, and it brings me to another question.
Ooh,
I have.
I feel like
Yes.
I'm having a very professional interview
I
here.
know, right? Trying my best. But
Yeah,
one question I had is kind of like, in this media oversaturated world, do you feel
yeah.
that sometimes art is just being another thing fed and being lost in this void? Or like, does it add to the noise, or does the arts like have something else, another role to play, another function in this world that
Mm.
we live, that we feel like we're constantly bombarded and overwhelmed by almost too much media?
Wow, that's such a great question. I've been thinking about this a lot because I think that we have we have a limited capacity for processing. Um, and if you imagine the analogy of food, of art as food,
Yeah.
no matter how refined the quality of the food is, no matter how delicious it is, there's only so much you can actually take in and digest.
Hmm.
And if you eat too much, you will either get an indigestion. Sometimes it leaves the body in a very unprocessed way. It might come out the other direction. Um, to use a horrible analogy, why did I use that analogy?
It
But
gets the point
but
across.
the point is strong, and I really feel that it's a very important point for myself, one that I'm trying to make connection with, because when you think about how the world that we live in, we are not usually aware of just how much we are consuming within one day. Um, and it's you can really lose that connection of um, those quiet moments where you actually have the time to reflect on something. So I
Yeah.
was thinking this morning, I was reading an article about a poet that inspires many people. I know she's someone that has inspired you a lot, Rupi Kaur.
Mm.
And the article was sort of like somewhat, it was an interview with her actually, but the journalist was a little bit like kind of also taking the side of, these sort of Instagram poets, like how valid
Mm.
are they as poets? And it's so easy to just sort of create poetry that enables you to swipe
Yeah.
through because they're just short little things. You double tap
Easily
it, you like it, you
consumable.
move on. Exactly. And
Yeah.
so they were kind of saying, yeah, what is that real poetry, or is real poetry that which forces you to really, think about it and really feel it and live with that one poem. Don't just scroll through to other stuff
Mm.
and then forget it. And so I think that when you ask that question about what is the role of art in our life beyond something to be consumed, I think it's not something that is ultimately meant to be consumed like fast food.
Yeah.
Um, it is the primary purpose of art, I believe, like I said, is to transform the heart, to help the soul evolve, and to make connection with the divine. So for that, I think it does require us to encounter art in different ways. And one of the primary ways that I think is most effective is when we encounter art collectively in a live type of setting. So, when you say, for instance, say you're in an intimate house concert and there's only 30, 40 people there and no one's using their phones or anything, that experience of just connecting with the sound of the music. Or when you go to an art gallery and everything's quiet. Again, I think the phones thing is the key point. We're not filtering it. We're not filtering things through a device. Like, oh, maybe I should take this picture because it would be cool to share with my followers that I went to this exhibition, because it makes me look a certain way. It makes me look intellectual or creatively interesting. But let me just be with this painting and be with other people who are also experiencing this painting and feel a connection, experience a connection in my heart, and see what that evokes in me. I think that experience of art is something that we're losing to a certain degree. It's someone says Rasa theory. Yes, this is Rasa theory. So Rasa theory comes from the ancient Vedic tradition of art and drama and music, and it's very much that it's that art unfolds at its highest within that context where we are completely absorbed in what's going on. It's not like a consumption. It's an absorption. It's an immersion. We enter another world through that.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's the highest potential of art. And I was talking to a wonderful musician who really feels that this too, and we were discussing how we can create in 2021 more experiences like this for people musically, where they could just actually have a space of healing and connection. So I'm hoping to work on that in my own life.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful answer, Jahnavi. I'm like just digesting it. Such a beautiful answer. And I know we're getting a lot of love from people. I think it's just so, like, you just hit the point fully when you said that it's this full immersive experience and done with community. Like, that's how art has always been done. You think of going to gallery shows, you think of seeing performances and concerts, and it becomes this moment where it's like something goes straight to your heart, but it's going to everyone's heart too. So in that moment, there's like this unity where you feel like you're all having the same experience at once. And I feel like those moments are transformative. Also, they transform like the collective consciousness, where literally everyone in that theater or gallery or wherever is having the same kind of consciousness. And that's the artist consciousness, like the musician, they're giving that to you. And so it becomes, and if they're giving you something uplifting, transformative, spiritual, it uplifts everyone. And that is like the most powerful experience. And the way our culture has shifted to this consumable culture, it's all like, so we're all in our own little worlds. We're consuming it individually. We're not even fully there. It's just so opposite. And so I love that you're bringing that up. And I really hope also for our world, for all of us, we can have more of that in 2021. Because with everything that's been so challenging this year, the lack of gathering, I think has really hit us on really deep levels. Like, we're sad we can't see our friends, but I think on a deeper level, it's really impacted the way we are in the world, the way we connect with others, the level of isolation that we feel. It's this lack of gathering.
Yeah, absolutely. We may not always really be aware of how that is shaping our experience, day-to-day experience. And who was it here? Moria Hope said, wow, Rasa theory. So yeah, this is what you just described. That is the Rasa theory. And in Rasa theory, the observers or the audience are called rasikas. So the rasa is that juice or that essence of what's being transmitted. And the rasikas are those who are united in all drinking that same essence. They're unified in that experience, and that collective experience. It is, it's one of the most transformational experiences of life.
Mm.
So in a great concert, an artist will have the power to bring everyone into that same moment in a song, for instance, and everyone sings
Yeah.
together. It's like, transcendent. Oh, that's so sweet. Destiny Riley says, I feel the live kirtan does that. I
Yeah.
remember being brought to tears by the Harinami Vikevalam. So that has been a really interesting thing for me, and during this pandemic, is to experience how this collective, immersive experience with music or kirtan can be experienced by people who aren't in the same place physically, but through the online
Mm.
platform. Because I didn't think that that
Yeah.
was necessarily possible, and I think now the pandemic has opened our minds to what's even possible. It may not be, it's not ideal, but
Yeah.
it's something, and it is more possible than we might think.
Totally. And people are having experiences, even if it's virtually. I think as long as that intention is there of like, we want to be present together, the artist is really trying to give that rasa. And people
Yeah,
are coming with that mood. I want to receive that. I think that's
yes,
powerful, whether it's digital or not.
yeah. We need that. We need that. That's rasa is, that's the juice of life. To we need to connect with it. Um, I wanted to quickly, 1 second.
Yeah. And one thing is that do we get cut off at an hour? Because then we only have 1 minute left. And we're here with 100 lovely people. I feel kind of sad ending it.
I think we
Can you
actually
imagine
don't
an
get cut.
hour has passed so quickly?
I know. I think we actually don't get cut off
Oh,
at an
okay.
hour anymore, but I think probably
Mhm.
it's a good time to conclude. But I wanted to share with you all something that Rukmini has just
Oh,
created. These are obscure. Well, maybe you want to tell. Well, I'll say my piece, and if you want to
yeah,
say
go
anything
ahead.
more about it, they're obscure emotions card deck. So Rukmini creates these incredible illustrations. Well, she had a series called Obscure Emotions, which is one of my favorites from what you've created. And really, it's surprising how much the illustrations will resonate with you to articulate things or sort of hit the nail on the head of things you weren't able to kind of voice, feel strange, contradictory types of emotions and things.
Yeah.
And so she just produced these incredible cards that stimulate reflection and conversation and meditation. So check them out. Check out her art
Oh,
on her
thank you,
page.
Jahnavi. There's a few
Um,
questions. Yes, it's available internationally actually with $10 worldwide shipping. So if you go to my page and my website, you can purchase a copy. Would love to send you one. I think international shipping takes some time, but it will eventually reach you. I don't know, Genevieve, if you want to do a quick session with the cards and at least show people what
oh,
it looks like.
oh,
Should
sure.
we do a little
Okay.
demo of how to use it? I actually haven't
Okay.
done a video demo, so it would be
Sure.
kind of
Let's
fun.
do a little demo. And
All right, if anyone
we'll
wants to stay
conclude
with us a little longer.
we will conclude with this. And before we start that, thank you so much to everyone. I know, naturally the number of people here with us goes down over the course of an hour because not everyone can just keep their phone on for an hour, listening
We have
to a
over
conversation.
100 people. I'm like
Yes,
amazed.
yes. And it's been so wonderful. Thank you for staying with us and for all the love, all your questions and comments. We've been watching them come in, even though we haven't been able to address everything.
Yeah.
So here are the cards. This is the back of the cards. This is the front, many, many, many illustrations. So tell me, Rukmini, how am
So,
I
oh,
going
I'm gonna
to?
do the session. Oh no, you're
Oh
gonna do
no,
it.
don't you? Oh, do I? No, no, don't you? Oh yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to take the cards. They are pre-shuffled. I've shuffled them ahead of time, and I'm going to pick a card, any card. I'm going to choose, I feel like I have a game show
3.
sort of person.
Yeah, this is
I'm going
great.
to choose
I mean, the number of
one.
coming on is just increasing.
I'm going to choose one, two. I'm doing past, present, and future as per Rukmini's,
Okay, so this is
yeah.
so
Okay.
there are many ways we can use these cards. A fun way I like to call is like an intuitive tarot card or kind of like an oracle card. But it's very simple. You take 3 cards and then you think of a theme in your life that you want to explore. And then you turn over each card. And what the cards do is that the images are such that you can interpret it openly and it gives some insight. So Jahnavi is going to pick a theme in her life she wants to explore. We're going to look at past, present, and future, and then we're going to openly process and just talk it out and see what interesting insights come to us, what we can share with you all.
Great, I'm excited. So I'm going to choose the theme of creativity and art,
Okay.
being an artist. So my first card, which is the past, is this one.
Ooh. Very interesting. Okay, so first, Jahnavi, tell me what you see in the card and then connect that to your past and creativity.
I see someone running. I see someone running. I feel to say that they're running from themselves, because it sort of feels like it sort of feels like this is sort of part of them that's just behind them, just chasing them. And I feel like, for me, to interpret that in the past, it feels like for a long time, I've been running from the identity of being an artist, and, not really wanting to accept that that's who I am, or that's what I have to offer. So this is my, I guess, fear running away. Then we have the present. Ooh,
does that resonate?
Yeah, so I think this is, well, wow, the present. So blocking out the noise, not saying anything that's unnecessary, speaking words of affirmation and encouragement to oneself, coming into that sacred space within and feeling connected as a creator. Feeling good divine connection. I love that.
That's beautiful. And everyone who's coming in and seeing this is not pre-planned. These are random cards.
This is not planned at all.
It's just resonating
This is
with
so cool,
Jahnavi.
actually. And this is the future.
Interesting. Okay, it's a little meta. What do you see happening here?
Yeah, the future. Well, I'm going to say, I think there probably are many ways to interpret this card. But what I see here is that through the process of authentic creation, authentic sharing and service as an artist, one can dig deeper and deeper into the layers of the self, and to really connect to their true essence. These layers might be a little bit more like, kind of self-doubt. Am I this? Am I that? And by the time you get down to that little bean in the middle there, it's like, okay, this is me.
Unpeeling those layers.
Yes, peel back the layers. So there you have my past, present, future.
Jahnavi's creative journey right there.
Yeah, so these cards they're so great, actually. I've been Rukmini did it one other time with me over the phone, and we were really surprised how I don't know how resonant they were. So I definitely encourage you to check them out. Rukmini also makes calendars and other things, which I love, because then you can kind of have something that's just always reminding you of your highest potential, and more all the time.
Thanks, Jahnavi. That was so lovely.
Thank you. Well, thank you to everybody for being here. I think we're gonna wrap it up.
We're gonna sign off for now.
Yeah, but this has been so inspiring, and let me know, or let us know. Personally, this is something I've been wanting to do for many years, actually. I used to, in my other life as a part-time sort of freelance journalist, I used to interview a lot of artists, and sometimes I used to feel like that was another way of me hiding from myself as an artist, by just speaking to artists rather than doing it myself. But I used to interview. I love interviewing, and I love conversation and connection with other artists. So let me know if this is something that you want to see more of on
I know I want to see more of it, but if anyone else is enjoy this conversation, I think it would be just so lovely to do. You have such a gift in speaking also, Jahnavi, and bringing this stuff out in people. To do a series of artist interviews would be really nice.
You are a gifted conversationalist and inquirer. I think that's something you've been helping a lot of people with, and delving into their you know,
Yeah.
their hearts. So someone was just asking what were the cards. These are the cards. Obscure
Yeah.
Emotions card deck.
Yes.
Thank you. Our dear friend Jai says more and more keep speaking to artists. Jai is another he's a
Encourager.
rocket fuel encourager
Yeah.
in both of our lives always. So thank you all so much. I'm going to
Thank you,
save
everyone.
this as a on IGTV, so you can watch it back if you want. I know some people
Yes,
have to
I'll
leave early.
repost it also.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rixie, and
Thanks,
speak to you
Jahnavi.
soon.
Yes, talk to you soon. Thank you for this.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.